Good evening. This is an unusual time for me to be on, but I'm here, and apologies if I look a bit flustered. I've just come back from walking haggis. It's another gorgeous evening down here in West Sussex, so I've waited till it's a bit later to take her out so it's not so hot for her, so she's happy and I'm here to talk to you. So today, shoes, training shoes, trainers, fitness shoes, whatever you want to call them. I don't know if I can show you this, but here is a small selection of my current shoes. Yeah, and I have about as many for the winter, for dog walking, horsey things, and I like to have the right shoes for the right job. So what we're actually talking about is, do you need to spend lots and lots of money on particular makes or specifics? And in my experience over the years, you don't necessarily have to have the most expensive brand or the latest model, that have come out that are over £100. They're not necessarily going to improve your performance. What you must have is shoes that fit, that are comfortable, that are designed for the job you want them to do, and that don't hurt. If they fit those criteria, it doesn't matter if you pay £50 or if you pay £150, in my humble opinion. So I'm just going to run you through some of these shoes, and I'm going to get into terrible trouble from my dad if he sees this, because I've just noticed that at least 3 of them have got the laces done up where I've taken them off lazily. So I'm going to get into trouble for that. Okay, this pair. These are, sun's coming out again, my current running shoes. And I only wear them when I go out for my runs. And they were mid-range. They're last year's model, but they do the job. So how do you know which ones you need? There's a myth or a belief that you should only wear your shoes for between 300 and 500 miles, and then at 500 miles you should get rid of them and replace them. Now, there is no solid evidence or research or even reasoning to back this up. There's an article which I will put into the edit. When I edit this video, I'll put the link in and you can go and read it yourself if you want to. But there's very little solid evidence to say that you have to change your shoes every 300 to 500 miles. When you think about it, some elite runners, they clock up 500 miles really quickly. They could be changing their shoes every few weeks, which would not be cost effective, even if they're sponsored. There's still a lot of shoes to go through, and it wouldn't be viable. Maybe it's a bit of a marketing tool, because you think, okay, these big brands are saying I should only do a maximum of 500 and then they're no good anymore, so that encourages you to go and get new shoes. So just question why that's out there, because I can't find any solid evidence or concrete reasons as to why you should. You do need to replace your shoes, but when? When they don't feel as comfortable as day one when you wore them for your run. Okay, you put them on and they're comfy, you go off for your run, you think, yeah, this is great, you don't even think about your feet. If they don't feel like that, then maybe they're wearing out and maybe you need to think about replacing them. So, do they feel as good as day one? Do your feet hurt after you've done your run or your training? Okay, we're not just talking about running shoes, we're talking about all sorts of trainers. These are my ones I wear for cross training. So I'll wear those for box fit when the gym's open. I'll go spinning in them on the bike. And these were my previous running pair that I now wear just for sort of everyday stuff. So they all get downgraded, and I hate throwing things away. So they hang around for a long time and get down and down and down. These were a winter pair because they have a Gore-Tex finish, so they're slightly waterproof. and so if I go out and the grass is a bit damp or it's a little bit muddy, then my feet don't get quite so wet in those. What else have we got? These weren't an ideal buy for me, this particular make and this style, because they're more of a trail shoe. I was running off-road, tree trunks, wooded paths, very up and down, and I thought they'd be good, but they didn't actually give my feet enough support. So they just get worn for everyday stuff. And I have to say, if I wear them for too long, my feet do hurt. So there is something in it to say don't wear them because they hurt. And these babies, these are my proper walking boots. They are as light as this pair of trainers, but they have much more support. Obviously they come further up to the ankle and give you more support and protection. So if your feet are hurting, maybe time to change them. Look after your trainers. Get off. Really don't put them in the washing machine. It's not good for them. It breaks down the materials, the rubber, the advanced layers of goodness knows what that they put in them these days to make you bounce more and to take the concussion out of the road. And if they do get manky, leave them to dry, get a brush, brush them off. If you really want to just get a sponge and wipe round the edges when you first come back, if they're really manky, then fine. But please avoid putting them in the washing machine, because it will actually make them last longer because you won't be breaking them down. Okay, just leave them to dry, brush them off, and off you go. So it also depends when you're choosing trainers. Fly is going for my water. By the way, I've got strawberries in my water tonight, and it is water, it's not gin. It depends on your gait. You may have heard of terms like neutral foot, pronator, supinator, and basically it's just saying, does your foot land and roll through the whole of your foot, or do you land and slightly roll inwards? Do you land and roll outwards? Because obviously, hi Harsha, how are you? Thank you for your messages earlier on today. It was really nice of you. Obviously, if you are slightly falling in or falling out, you're going to have more stresses coming up your leg rather than landing in a neutral position and pushing off. So that's why some shoes will have more support than others. Some will have more cushioning than others. Some people will land, I land very heavy on my heel and roll through. Hi Lindsay, how are you? Haven't seen you for ages. Can't wait for you to get back open again in cloud fold. And therefore you have different types of shoes for different activities. Some people run very much on their forefoot, so they're landing on the ball of their foot and pushing off, and they have very little heel contact. So there are shoes which are better for them. As I say, I land very heavily, and I land and I roll through my feet, through my foot and off my toes again. So I have cushioning, but just to make it more difficult, I do land and fall in a bit. So my shoes tend to be for a little bit of pronation as well, to support my foot and prevent too much concussion and other biomechanical things going on up my leg as I'm running. So you may need, once we come out of lockdown and you're thinking about buying new shoes, it is worth taking the time to go to some of these running shops that have a treadmill in the shop. They get you on the treadmill, get you to run, and they video you as you're running, and you can see whether you're falling in, whether you're a heel planter, whether you're a forefoot runner, and they'll be able to match the best type of shoe for the type of activity that you want to do. If you're running off-road, if you're running around the roads and you're running on tarmac, you'll have a slightly different shoe for that. If you're running uphill and down area like a fell runner, they will have a different type of shoe as well. So like you get different tyres for bikes and for cars, word went from me for a minute, you get different types of shoe and different types of tread for your trainers, hence why I have such an array. So a lot of people will also blame their shoes for their poor performance, which is never really a great thing to do. Might make you feel good at the time, but when you actually look back on it, you think, oh, a bit rubbish, okay? Poor workman always blames his tools, that's what they used to say. So just make sure you've got the shoe that is ideal for you, as close as possible. They don't have to break the bank. Don't put them in the washing machine. I need new trainers for sure. Me too, Lindsay. My running has gone up because of lockdown. So I am actually doing more miles than I normally would because I've got more time, and it's great, but they are getting worn out more quickly. So on the whole, I've lost my train of thought as usual. I'm waffling, looking forward to coming back. Yeah, me too. Think about what activity you're going to be doing. Find a shoe that is comfortable, fits like a slipper, and supports your feet. Get advice from biomechanical people, running shops, wherever you need to go. There's nothing to say, and I'll probably get shot down for this, that once you've bought a pair of shoes and you think, yeah, these are the ones, I love these shoes, I never want to change them, you can always go online and find the same model at a cheaper price, especially if they're last year's model. You know, I think this pair, this was last year I bought these. They're a blue turquoise colour. This year they're probably purple for the same model, but they just changed the colours. The same as they change football teams' outfits, they do the same with your running shoes. So there's lots of online shops that you can go to get your shoes once you've got the model that suits you best for the activity that you're doing. Okay, hopefully I won't get into trouble for that. So that's about it. Is there any truth in wearing them for 300 to 500 miles and then having to change them? I haven't found any solid evidence. I will put the article on as a link. You can read it for yourself, research it for yourself. My advice to you is, if they're comfortable, they're doing the job, and you don't hurt after your activity, then they're probably okay. If you come back one day and you say, oh, my feet are sore, and many of you will probably have seen that I always stand in a bucket of water after I've come back from my runs, normally up to my knees, and I just find that that cools my feet down, takes any inflammation, any swelling out, cools my muscles down, and does help to prevent too much stiffness later on that day or the next day. It comes from an equestrian background. We always hose the horses' legs off when they come back from work, generally from the knee down, and it's for the same reasons. It cools the tendons down, it cools the blood temperatures, takes out any inflammations and swelling, and can help to prevent injury. So if it's good enough for my horses, I think it's good enough for me to do it as well, and that's why you often see the picture of me standing in a bucket of water. Enough waffle, waffle, my lovelies. I am going to take my shoes. I have a flat foot and are very painful. Okay, Harsha, I will find you some tips and I will help you out with that if I can. Next time I come on, there is also, oh, I forgot to do it, a test you can do. If you've got a big piece of paper, plain paper, or a cork bath mat, if you get your feet wet and then you come out and you stand on that surface, you will be left with an imprint of your foot, and it will show how much of an arch you've got. If there's a lot of your foot in contact with that surface when it's wet, it will leave a bigger print. If you end up with, I can't do it back to front, but you've got your toes and then it comes down and it goes in quite a lot, that's where your arch is. That's going to show that you've got a higher arch than someone with a flatter foot. So that's a little test you can do. There's bound to be a YouTube video on it if you go and research it. It's called the towel test, the foot plant test, wet foot test, anything like that. And that'll just give you an idea. So next time, I'm going to talk about other clothing. Do you need any ideas why my heels underneath ache after a run? Right, Lindsay, it could be that, do you land heel push through your foot and push off your toes? Are you a heel runner? Or is it that you just land quite heavily on your heel? Or even with your stretches after your runs, do you stretch your Achilles, which runs down the back of the leg, and the calf muscles? Because they come down, attach into one Achilles tendon and attach underneath the heel bone. So that sometimes, if that's getting a little bit tight, that may be part of your reason. And it could be if it feels tighter in the morning when you get up, because the area will soak up moisture overnight and becomes more swollen, then as you're going on through the day it wears off. That might also be part of it. So I would say check the way you run and make sure that you stretch, and give me a shout and we can discuss it. Send me a message and we can go into more detail. So to wrap up, hi Emily, how are you? She's my little superstar, little Emily. She started running during lockdown. She didn't run very much beforehand, but she's really taken to it and her fitness has gone through the roof. So I hope your back has got better, where you said you got a bit sore the other day. So change your shoes when your feet start to hurt, okay? When the shoes don't feel as good as they did on your first run, maybe time to change them. Try not to get too hung up on mileage. It's not necessarily any evidence out there to say it has to be that amount. If you think about your car tyres, goes for an MOT, they have a minimum millimetre on it. If it's down to that, then it needs to be changed. But the garage shouldn't say to you, ooh, they've done 300 miles, you need to change them, if they've got another 1,000 miles left in them. So apply the same sort of logic to your shoes. Definitely tighter in the morning, okay? So try icing it, stretching it, Lindsay, and let me know how you get on and we can discuss it further. Look after your shoes, don't put them in the washing machine, let them dry, air them. These beautiful days I leave them outside to dry off and air out. Check your gait, buy decent shoes that are good for the job that you want them to do, and you should have less problems. You know, if you think about looking after your feet, then the rest of your body will have less concussion, less issues, working its way up the body. So I hope that's been helpful. There's a lot of waffle as usual, but pink shirt, signing off for the night. Have a lovely evening. Let me know your thoughts. Tomorrow is recipe day, so there'll be a recipe tomorrow morning, and there's something else tomorrow, I can't remember what it is, but I'll let you know. Have a nice night. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.